but you know everything about every.
I mean, what do you say? What do you say to this? That's crazy. That's crazy. Oh, yeah. I wanted to watch the Aubrey video on Jeffrey Jedediah Epstein. Let's do it. The worst cover-up in American history, the Jeffrey Epstein Saga. New Aubrey. Nandre said, damn. Let's get into it. The worst cover-up in American history, the Jeffrey Epstein Saga. This is the latest installation from friend of the show, Aubrey.
White House facing mounting bipartisan pressure to release documents related to the Jeffrey Epstein case.
The Wall Street Journal just published an explosive story.
The president's reversal has amped up scrutiny of his own relationship with Epstein.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff.
Epstein didn't do this all.
The only criticism I have of Aubrey is that he just puts these beats. He puts these goddamn beats on videos where he's covering some of the most like heinous crimes and I'm just like bobbing my head along as we're looking at Jeffrey Epstein. You know what I mean? It shouldn't go this hard. It shouldn't go this hard. Have some composure. Okay, have some decency, please. I can't be in here going, oh hell yeah, that's that Jeffrey Epstein music. You know, it's messed up.
Himself. There were a lot of other people that helped him.
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years.
Okay. Worst cover-up in American history, you say? Okay.
Remember when we learned that our wealthiest and most powerful people were connected to a guy who ran a literal sex trafficking ring, and then that guy died mysteriously in jail, and now we just don't talk about it? Those were the words of J.D. Vance on September 4th, 2021, when the then candidate for U.S. Senate posted an article from opinion writer Matthew Walther examining the avalanche of conspiracy theories that had festered as a result of the U.S. government fumbling the case of the most notorious sex criminal of the 21st century. The 2019 article, written shortly after Jeffrey Epstein's most recent arrest at a New Jersey airport, made note of the disgraced financier's peculiar talent of dodging accountability and listed the high-profile clientele that had been known to associate with the convicted sex offender at one point or another. These names spanned across both sides of the political aisle and included power brokers from all over the world: Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Leslie Wexner, Harvey Weinstein, and of course, the sitting president of the United States. Despite Vance tweeting it out almost 4 years ago, there are parts of this article that make it sound like it could have been written today. In reference to 2,000 documents that were set to be unsealed back then, Walther had hoped that, quote, when we finally see them, we will likely be able to answer questions about the identities of the numerous prominent American politicians, powerful business executives, foreign presidents, a well-known prime minister, and other world leaders who have also been accused of sexual assault by Epstein's alleged victims. Walther even had the gall to ask back then, quote, was Trump speaking from personal experience when he said in 2002 that Epstein likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side? These words were so compelling to J.D. Vance in 2021 that he endorsed them on his main Twitter account while running for Congress.
Now I brought you all here for a big announcement, and I guess it's time that I actually get on to making the announcement part. What is it? Well, thank you, sir. That's fine.
Tweeting that December, what possible interest would the US government have in keeping Epstein's client secret? Oh, continuing, if you're a journalist and you're not asking questions about this case, you should be ashamed of yourself. What purpose do you even serve? Maybe try to do your job once in a while. Powerful words. Words that stand in complete contrast to the official line put out by the very administration J.D. Vance now serves.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats and some stupid.
Nobody cares about this. You're still talking about Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody cares about this guy. He's been talked about so much for years and years.
Stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net.
The president may very well want us to write off Epstein's multi-million-dollar international trafficking ring as just another bullshit hoax, a pathetic distraction drafted up by his political enemies that only weaklings would be dumb enough to fall for. Only problem is that for the past several years, the American people have considered this story anything but, and that includes Trump's own base of support, from MAGA foot soldiers all the way up to ranking members of his own cabinet.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list, they're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Wait, I'm sorry, is he wearing his own merch?
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the files are. We have an election coming up. I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
It's true that those in the Trump camp were once beyond eager to conjure up the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein when it meant securing some easy wins on the campaign trail.
I want to just be very clear. Republicans could get Epstein's list out now? Like, how would that process work?
Simple. One subpoena to the FBI. Give me the list. Oh, you don't want to give me the list and you're going to break the law and commit contempt of Congress? We're going to take your money.
Having seized the reins of power, however, they appear to have reached an entirely different conclusion. One that I imagine included the phrase, "Shit, this guy's actually in the files."
Tonight, a new report that President Trump is named in the Epstein Files.
And just like that, the official White House position has gone from release the Epstein list to the Epstein list is sitting on Pam Bondi's desk to there is no list to it was created by Barack Obama to it's boring, who cares, can we just stop talking about it please? It's true that FBI Director Kash Patel, a former podcaster, his deputy Dan Bongino, also a former podcaster, and Attorney General
Excuse me, put some respect on it. Clearly a more important position for both of these guys than being the deputy director of the FBI. Who cares about the FBI, dude?
General Pam Bondi, not a
got supplements
podcaster,
to
but
sell.
former criminal defense attorney to, let me check here. Oh yeah, the president once appeared firmly committed to releasing the Epstein Files in the name of bringing justice to the victims and making sure the perpetrators who facilitated and participated in Epstein's operation were held accountable.
Nobody knows how much material people have on Jeffrey Epstein. The guy himself, and now nobody's gonna know.
Who has Jeffrey Epstein's
Black Book?
Black Book?
FBI. Oh, that's under direct control of the director of the FBI. And to me, that's a thing I think President Trump should run on. On day one, roll out the Black Book.
But now it seems their lives would be easier if we just stopped asking questions and moved on from what should be the story of the century. And that's precisely why we shouldn't.
Why are they protecting the pedophile? Really, the answer to that question is the real answer to everything. Why are they protecting the pedophiles? Find the answer to that one. And I think you'll, well, you won't like the result, but at least it'll be true.
Today, I intend to lay out what we know here as sufficiently and as accurately as humanly possible. Though I do have to warn you, the Epstein lore is long and complex, and in the words of the president himself, sordid. But contrary to what he may want you to think, it certainly isn't boring.
The question of what exactly is in the Epstein files and why Donald Trump won't release them isn't going away, no matter how desperately he tries to change the subject.
The questions are getting greater and greater and more pointed.
There's some real panic in the White House right now. A lot of people have gone quiet, a lot of people have gone dark, but they recognize this is a problem. It's a first time they've had a problem like this, and they don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
But before we get any deeper into this story, I want to take a brief moment here to thank today's sponsor, the people over at NOCD. A couple videos ago, I opened up a little bit about my own personal experience of having OCD. It's something I've dealt with for about as long as I can remember, and it's usually not something I talk about often, partly because it can be difficult to explain, but also because there was a time where my compulsive thoughts were so frequent and such a massive part of my day-to-day existence that it was almost not even worth bringing up. It's like it was just another mundane part of my life. Anyone with OCD knows what it's like to constantly battle compulsions brought on by obsessive, anxious thoughts, and how these compulsions can often dominate your life if you continuously give in to them. I know how smothering it can get because I've been there. OCD is a far more debilitating, frustrating disorder than a lot of people understand, which is why I get why you may not want to reach out and get help if you are struggling with it. For the longest time, I didn't think anyone could possibly understand what it was I was going through, but then I found NOCD. NOCD is the largest OCD treatment provider in the world, with every single one of their therapists being specialized in treating OCD specifically, which makes a huge difference because, as anyone with the disorder knows, OCD isn't treated by traditional talk therapy. OCD requires a very specific type of therapy called ERP, which stands for exposure
That's crazy.
response prevention. Rather than give in to your compulsions, ERP therapy teaches you to sit with your feelings of discomfort, exposing you to the very situation.
I don't know what ERP is. But it seems like a lot of chatters thought it was something different. Why are we listening to an ad? Because we're doing Ethical Reacts. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the people, for you, the people. But let's be real. If I'm going to watch a friend of the show's video and he has an ad in it, I'm going to watch the ad.
Situations that fuel you,
especially if the video is recent.
Your obsessive thoughts. Over time, it allows you to demonstrate to yourself that you are in fact capable of making it through the day without OCD needing to take over. You'll start to notice your compulsions shrinking and shrinking, with your therapist being there to assist you the whole time. After going through ERP with a NOCD therapist myself, I can personally attest to feeling so much lighter now that my compulsions are not dominating my every action the way that they have in the past. Thanks to NOCD, my mind is clearer, my anxious thoughts have calmed down, and I feel more confident to take on whatever it was causing those negative thoughts in the first place. Believe me, recovery is possible, and you can get started today with a free consultation by visiting NOCD.com. Link in the description below. That's NOCD.com. They accept major insurance providers in all 50 states and are, in my opinion, the absolute perfect place to start your recovery journey. Thanks so much again
for you for being a gooner. Okay, calm down, man. No shot. You skip every Taft's ad. Ha ha ha. Fair.
OCD for sponsoring this video.
This is a 1-hour video with one ad. Adam puts like 8 ads in his videos.
In the early weeks of 2003, dozens of the world's most prominent men and women took time out of their busy schedules to write a warm birthday note for a good friend, a friend that would go on to haunt them for decades to come. Jeffrey Epstein was turning 50, and to celebrate such an impressive milestone,
yeah, and all of the ads are for Blue Chew and sports betting.
his then girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, turned to their inner circle of elite confidants for some sweet birthday letters she'd compile in a multi-page leather-bound book produced by New York City bookbinder Herbert Whites, a man whose website claimed Epstein as a client at the time. Near the front of the book, Ghislaine stated her intentions were to simply gather stories and old photographs to jog your memory about places, people, and different events. Some of the letters will definitely achieve their intended goal, she wrote. Some, well, you'll have to read them and see for yourself. I know you'll enjoy looking through the book, and I hope you'll derive as much pleasure looking through it as I did putting it together for you. What follows, according to those who...
It's crazy that lady now refers to Jeffrey Epstein as not like my beautiful Jeffrey or other names that she used in the past, but simply as Mr. Epstein, in order to try and distance herself from him. How crazy.
Have seen it is a collection of salacious and bizarre words strewn together by wealthy CEOs, esteemed scientists, high-profile attorneys, and 2 American presidents. One former, one future. Billionaire retail mogul and Victoria's Secret owner Les Wexner scrawled, "I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is," next to a crudely drawn image of a woman's breasts. Meanwhile, private equity investor Leon Black composed of Hoem, blonde, red, brunette, spread out geographically. With this net of fish, Jeff's now the old man and the sea. Signed, Love and Kisses, Leon. Alan Dershowitz. A litigious pierogi connoisseur and a celebrity lawyer whose client list famously features only really good guys included a fake mock-up of a Vanity Unfair cover comparing his 50-year-old buddy to Jack the Ripper. Okay. Meanwhile, current UK ambassador to the United States, Peter Mandelson, provided photos of a tropical island while referring to Epstein as his best pal. Fashion designer Vera Wayne joked about Jeffrey Epstein going on The Bachelor, and one billionaire Microsoft executive by the name of Nathan Myhrvold simply wrote, "They seemed more appropriate than anything I could put into words." They being real photos of monkeys screaming, lions and zebras mating, and one image of a zebra showing its penis. You know, normal.
Like, how do you... Bro, when you look at stuff like this, you realize that the connective tissue here is just like weird sex. Sometimes I like to second guess and maybe even like check myself and assume or think like, am I biased here? Right? Is it my own personal biases that's guiding me into believing that there is this weird sexual connection with all these people? But when I see stuff like this, I'm like, well, clearly there is some kind of sexual connection. They're all making sex jokes. When my friends write like a card for me for my birthday, they don't talk about animals. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's not a thing that tracks.
Stuff everyone sends to their friends on their birthday.
Breaking moments ago, new reporting from the Wall Street Journal sheds more light on that book Ghislaine Maxwell compiled for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday in 2003.
Among this sea of depravity was a short, cryptic passage handwritten by our country's 42nd commander-in-chief. "It's reassuring, isn't it," wrote Bill Clinton, "to have lasted as long across all the years of learning and knowing, adventures and intelligible, and also to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and the solace of friends." That makes a lot of sense. You know, you'd never really want to get caught writing the world's most prolific pedophile a note of any kind, but you especially wouldn't want it to contain the phrase childlike curiosity. I mean, could you possibly come up with a worse series of words to write Jeffrey Epstein?
I'm Elizabeth Cook, and we have some breaking news that we're following. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that President Donald Trump sent the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein a body letter for his birthday in 2003.
For over a decade, Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were close. So close, in fact, that the real estate mogul wrote fondly of the wonderful secret the two men apparently shared together in what's almost 4.
If I had a nickel for every U.S. president that wrote a birthday card to Jeffrey Epstein, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Yeah, but if you were to get a nickel for every world leader that is written to Jeffrey Epstein, you'd have a lot more than 20 cents. Well, nickel's 5, so it's 10 cents. Well, it remains true though. You'd have like probably $100.
Matted like a bizarre tweet a whole decade before Twitter even became a thing. Trump sketched the following words within the outline of a hand-drawn naked woman. Voiceover: "There must be more to life than having everything. Donald: Yes, there is, but I won't tell you what it is. Jeffrey: Nor will I, since I also know what it is. Donald: We have certain things in common, Jeffrey."
That was not on my bingo card ass comment. He's standing right behind me, isn't he?
Jeffrey: Yes, we do, come to think of it. Donald: Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that?
This
Jeffrey:
one is so
As a matter of
crazy.
fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you. Donald: A pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret. His signature, marked at the bottom of the page, is said to appear underneath the woman's waist, as if to resemble pubic hair. This is all according to those at the Wall Street Journal who purport to have seen it, as it's important to note that at the time of me writing this script, the illustration has yet to be shown to the public, though I hope to God that changes soon, and it just might, frankly, now that Trump has followed through on his threats to sue the out of the Wall Street Journal, its parent company News Corp, and its billionaire owner Rupert Murdoch, a man who very much helped construct the modern iteration of the Republican Party. The fact that such a powerful media magnate who also happens to own Fox News did not interfere with the publishing of this story, even after the Trump administration's desperate pleas for him to kill it, speaks volumes in itself. In response to Trump's legal action, the Wall Street Journal has only doubled down on the veracity of the reporting, and they appear to welcome whatever discovery such a case should warrant. Which means Trump is playing a very dangerous game here. Unlike Wexner, Clinton, and Dershowitz, Donald Trump is the only figure to flat out deny the existence of the birthday letter he supposedly wrote, which has only raised eyebrows. I didn't send Jeffrey Epstein a body drawing of a naked woman with a cryptic poem alluding to our wonderful secrets shirt has a lot of people asking questions already answered by my shirt. The Journal approached Trump for comment a few days before running.
The 100,000 emails to and from Epstein and the Israel guy didn't even warrant a story. Yeah. Just like the fact that file, who happens to be a part of Benjamin Netanyahu's like cybersecurity team, that openly told law enforcement after he got caught in an anti-sting that he was going to fly to Israel instantly, actually ended up doing that. And there's very few news stories about that as well. NPR called it anti-Semitic. Wait, what? I did not see that.
Really, it's hard to miss the clear vitriol in his answers. This is not me. This is a fake thing. It's a Wall Street Journal story. I never wrote a picture in my life. It's seething so hard he couldn't even speak straight. I don't draw pictures of women. It's not my language. It's not my words. Needless to say, the publishing of this story sparked pretty intense debate online. The president's allies and surrogates jumped at the chance to remind everyone that Donald Trump is a soft boy, a chivalrous man who would never depict women in such a demeaning way.
I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
They called it anti-Semitic conspiracy that there was ties between Epstein and Israel. Shut up. NPR wrote about Ehud Barak emailing Jeffrey Epstein 1,000,000 times, and then they only wrote about it to disparage the rumors as anti-Semitic. That is insane. On Up First, oh my God, bro.
Grab him by the...
His two fail sons, Don Jr. and J.D. Vance, were quick to doubt the bull letter's validity based on the simple notion that the man they know and love would never possess enough whimsy in his heart as to doodle a picture, except for all the times he's done exactly that, right down to the same thick black Sharpie and his distinct signature the Journal had reported on. So there goes that defense, I guess. Since releasing the full Epstein files to clear his name is evidently off the table, what else can we say instead to shut the masses up?
Somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier.
Okay, so it might be real, but someone else wrote it. All right. So does that mean the rest of the letters are fake? Because which ones would those be? Why haven't any of the other alleged contributors come out and said that? Now, if you couldn't already tell, I am not someone without biases. I have my political leanings just like everyone else. But even as a left-winger, I'm not gonna sit here and glaze Bill f***ing Clinton, a man who I think should be in jail. You think I like anyone with the last name Clinton? I couldn't care less if he went down with the ship. In fact, he should be held accountable not only for being Epstein's friend for multiple years, flying around the world on the Lolita Express, and inviting the man to the White House multiple times, according to visitor logs. He and his wife should absolutely be made to answer for why they let Ghislaine Maxwell into their daughter's wedding and allowed her to accompany.
Prominently featured in the wedding. Look.
Made to answer for why they let
literally front row seat. That's crazy.
Ghislaine Maxwell into their daughter's wedding and allowed her to accompany Chelsea on a yacht trip even after Epstein was already a convicted sex criminal. Release everything you...
Ehud Barak is blood libel. Believing he exists is blood libel. Reporting on him is blood libel. Knowing what his face looks like because you've seen his picture, specifically outside of a Manhattan mansion owned by Jeffrey Epstein that was given to him by Les Wexner for free, also blood libel. You should never think about Ehud Barak. He did not exist. He was certainly not the former prime minister of Israel.
Have on those freaks. The public needs to know the full extent of what our leaders have done behind closed doors. But such accountability must go both ways.
You guessed
and for
it.
some unknown
Blood
reason,
libel.
Donald Trump has only ever wanted it to go one way.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of problems.
The Epstein story has been everywhere these past couple months, but make no mistake, none of this is new. In fact, newspapers show that Jeffrey Epstein was considered a political liability all the way back in July 2008. In an ancient article published in the Santa Fe New Mexican, reporter Steve Terrell cited Epstein's ties to Clinton, along with his donations to a handful of New Mexico politicians, ranging from Governor Bill Richardson's 2002 campaign to Gary King's 2006 bid for Attorney General. Land Commissioner Jim Baca and Santa Fe County Sheriff Greg Solano were also reported to have taken cash from Epstein, but returned or donated the funds to charity after his 2006 arrest in Palm Beach, Florida. Allegations of Epstein's abuse span decades, and we know that some of his victims had tried speaking out long before his eventual arrest. But because both the mainstream media and the FBI repeatedly ignored calls in the 90s and early 2000s to investigate and expose his predation for reasons that remain unclear, Epstein wasn't officially convicted of anything until 2008, when he entered into a sweetheart plea agreement with Florida state prosecutors. Despite requiring he register as a sex offender, the highly lenient nature of such a deal has been heavily scrutinized in the years since, as Epstein only pled guilty to the lightest possible charges. Despite multiple victims willing to testify against their abuser, prosecutors did everything they could to avoid
talking about the improper handling by state and local authorities in the first Jeffrey Epstein criminal sex trafficking of minor case. You might have guessed it. Also blood libel.
Avoid going to trial, even if it meant calling the victims prostitutes and therefore undermining the very girls they were supposed to be protecting. What resulted was Epstein spending just 13 months in jail on a work release program that allowed the sex offender to leave his cell to work from his waterfront home between 12:30 and 2:30 p.m., according to the Palm Beach Post. As Assistant U.S. Attorney A. Marie Villafana put it in a letter to PBSO Deputy Chief Mike Gauger, letting Epstein spend time in a private office.
He's the son of Mr. Burns, who runs the Springfield nuclear facility.
Making telephone calls, web surfing, and having food delivered to him is probably not in accordance with the objectives of imprisonment. He was even reportedly allowed to accept visits from modeling scout Jean-Luc Brunel, another rampant sex trafficker who died under mysterious circumstances while awaiting trial in 2022, not too dissimilar from his good friend. When Epstein emerged from prison in 2009, he was able to resume life almost as if nothing had happened. He purchased 2 islands, traveled the world, and continued to socialize among the upper echelons of society. Big banks had no problem moving his vast sums of wealth around and helping him distribute payments, just as figures like Leon Black, Glenn Dubin, Woody Allen, David Copperfield, Jess Staley, Larry Summers, Bill Gates, and former Israeli Prime Minister
blood libel. Once again, he's doing it. Deep blood libel. This man doesn't exist. Okay, he does not exist. He's never been the prime minister.
Ehud Barak, to name a few, are all confirmed to have associated with Epstein years after he became a registered sex offender. In fact, at the beginning of August, the New York Times published a story that revealed a separate birthday book filled up with fawning letters sent in by friends of Epstein for his 63rd birthday in 2016, 8 years after his very public conviction in 2008. Which, side note, but a birthday book for a milestone age, yeah, I get that. 50 makes sense, but 63? Are you getting one every year? Director Woody Allen reflects longingly on the time they spent together sitting around the pedophile's dinner table. What interesting conversations were had with the politicians, teachers, magicians, comedians, intellectuals, journalists, and others that frequented his Manhattan lair. The daunting 7-story Herbert N. Strauss mansion looming over Central Park that Epstein bought from his mentor Les Wexner, the same year, by the way, that Epstein's previous home ended up in the hands of this gentleman cackling next to another one of Epstein's friends.
I think, well, really,
Well, that's just Epstein's neighbor, you know.
only apparently pretty bad people, including
friend.
fake news, want to keep something like that going.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. According to Newsweek, Epstein sold his property on Fifth Avenue to a specialized trust before giving power of attorney to his lawyer, Jeffrey Shantz, who then sold the home to Comet Trust in 1996. 2 years later, it was purchased by current Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick for $4 million. The two remained neighbors until Epstein's 2019 arrest. Lutnick still owns the property to this day and even held a fundraiser there for Hillary Clinton's campaign in 2015, just a few feet away from a known ally of the Clinton family. It's a big club, and thank God we ain't in it. Speaking of that big club, this Times article reveals a number of esteemed figures smiling and posing with the pedophile in framed photos that lined the palace's interior. Some of these photos were already public, such as the one of Epstein and Ghislaine with Fidel Castro and Pope John II, but others
He don't got internet. He don't got internet. He don't got internet.
are new, like one purported mirror selfie of Epstein and Steve Bannon, which I absolutely need to see. Are you kidding me? How
He don't got internet. He don't got internet, bro. Chill. Don't tarnish the good reputation of the GOAT Fidel. He don't got internet.
can you not publish that? This one with Clinton is also new, and so is this candid shot of Noam Chomsky. Very weird one to frame. It looks like a paparazzi picture. We also see a framed dollar bill bearing the signature of Bill Gates with the words "I was wrong" scribbled across, as if to imply Gates had lost some kind of bet to Jeffrey Epstein. Can only imagine what great stuff.
I will say, I feel like in a weird way, even slop tubers, now obviously the crimes are not completely comparable, but even slop tubers overall are better than some of society's most wealthy elites. Because like these guys didn't give a when Jeffrey Epstein was outed. Meanwhile, even some of Sex Pestiny Molestiny's deepest orbiters were like, yeah, I think trying to procure sexual abuse material from a minor is a bridge too far for me. I'm out. So these guys, some of the wealthiest individuals in society, have a shittier moral compass than mother slop tubers.
Stuff was going on there. The lineup also includes this uncomfortably close shot of Larry Summers, along with appearances from Richard Branson, Mick Jagger, and Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Not to mention this peculiar shot of who the Times identifies as Elon Musk sitting at a dinner table. Perhaps he was attending one of Epstein's famous dinner parties, the kind Woody Allen described in his 2016 letter. Reminiscing on all the good times they had together, Woody paints a bone-chilling picture of these.
I think Willie Mack is backtracking. Wait, he is? That's crazy. Not my Woody Mack. Woody Allen. Latest guest of Bill Maher's Club Random, by the way.
Dinners, where food was often served by young women, reminding one of Castle Dracula, where Bela Lugosi has 3 young female vampires who service the place. Add to this that Jeffrey lives in a vast house alone, Woody wrote. One can picture him sleeping in the damp earth. And I gotta give Woody credit here. Castle Dracula is a disturbingly accurate way to describe Epstein's mansion. As we've seen, guests who visited were met with not only this taxidermied tiger resting in Epstein's home office, but also reportedly dozens of framed prosthetic eyeballs that lined the entryway. This eerie sculpture of a bride clutching a rope that hung over the central atrium, a life-size chess set featuring the likeness of his staff clad only in their underwear, and of course this painting of his friend in a blue dress. If it weren't clear enough from this massive crucifixion of Jesus Christ hanging in the bedroom of his New Mexico residence, Epstein certainly had an eclectic taste, if that's what you can call it, which should have been apparent to anyone who spent any time at all at any of his 5 properties, both before his conviction and after, just as the presence of his extremely young assistants should have been clear to anyone.
He is the guy that like makes it so hard for people like myself to be like, listen, a lot of the Illuminati cult stuff that you guys believe in, like, because there's conspiracy theorists that like tap into all the like Masonic imagery, like Illuminati sex cult stuff. And it's like Jeffrey Epstein makes it so hard to argue against that because he did unironically do a lot of that weird like down to the strange island like getaway area that he had, like that little, I don't want to call it a mosque, but it just looks like a little temple on the island. Sometimes you have to wonder, was he doing it on purpose? Where he's like, yeah, people are going to get a real kick out of this. They're going to let me really lean into the Illuminati angle here.
One of his guests too. Judging by his letter, it seemed pretty clear to Woody Allen. One photo, reviewed by the Times, though not published, is said to depict a drawing of the state of Israel, scribbled on a
that's also coincidence and a blood libel.
chalkboard next to Ehud Barak's signature.
Also blood libel.
A man who
Ehud Barak doesn't exist and is not a real person.
Not only met with the pedophile upwards of 30 times after stepping down as Israeli prime minister, Ehud Barak is also one of the 7 friends who wrote to Epstein in 2016. According to the Times, Barak's letter went as follows: "There is no limit to your curiosity. You are like a closed book to many of them, but you know everything about everyone."
I mean, what do you say? What do you say to this? Former Prime Minister of Israel in 2016 being like, hey, I loved when you had blackmail on everyone. It was awesome. Like, this is one step removed from being like, hey, Jeffrey, loved doing the pedophilia trafficking blackmail together. That's like, is one step removed. It's just a veiled version of saying that. That's crazy. That's crazy. You are like a closed book to many of them, but you know everything about everyone.
A statement that I'm sure won't make people think you're Mossad, and also is totally unrelated to the myriad of security cameras scattered about the bedrooms and hallways, whatever footage being collected on them having never seen the light of day. Referring to Epstein as a collector of people in all caps, Barak concluded his letter with, "May you enjoy long and healthy life, and may all of us, your friends, enjoy your table for many more years to come." Other letters came from Noam Chomsky, scientist Lawrence Krauss, Harvard biologist Martin Novak, and media mogul Mort Zuckerman, who, when suggesting ingredients for a meal that would reflect the culture of the house, described a simple salad and whatever else would enhance Jeffrey's sexual performance. Again, normal things to be sending your normal friend for his normal birthday. While these figures may publicly regret their associations and offer strong condemnations of their former friend now that they have no other choice, one can only speculate as to why such powerful men with so much to
What happened to just writing happy birthday? No, you can't. See, you don't understand. You don't understand. If you're writing a birthday message, a well thought out birthday message to prolific sex criminal Jeffrey Epstein, you can't just, a simple happy birthday doesn't suffice. You have to write a cryptic message that implies that you know that he is doing a blackmail sex trafficking operation and that you are very much involved in it. Okay? You just have to write a letter that, you know, when people look at later down the line, they immediately go, oh my God, you definitely participated in the sex trafficking of minors in some capacity. Why do you at least know about it?
Blues continued to entertain Epstein's company regardless of his very public abuse of young girls. In 2017, Miami Herald journalist Julie K. Brown decided to dust off the Epstein case and re-examine his connections not only to the President of the United States, but also his recently appointed Labor Secretary Alexander Acosta, who just so happened to be the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida during the fateful year of 2008. As the DA, Acosta had personally signed off on that infamous non-prosecution agreement that allowed Epstein to avoid going to prison for the rest of his life. Brown wanted to know why Acosta let it happen. For the full story, I'd highly recommend reading her book, Perversion of Justice, which goes in depth on the whole cover-up at the heart of the US government's handling of the case. We don't have time to divulge the details here, but for the sake of this video, it is worth noting that Brown's reporting did lead to a newfound interest in the case and forced the disgraced Acosta to resign from Trump's
Oh my God, you're right. Acosta does look like an alien.
first cabinet in 2019, shortly after Epstein's second arrest at a New Jersey airport. Epstein remained in custody at the now-closed Manhattan Corrections Facility for just 36 days before he was found dead in his cell, reportedly hanging from his bed in a sitting position with sheets tied around his neck and cloths strung all over the floor. It was ruled a suicide, as we all know, but that hasn't stopped the majority of the country from believing otherwise on account of several glaring anomalies, such as the security cameras malfunctioning, the guards being asleep on the job, and of course, the countless high-profile individuals who would undoubtedly benefit from him being dead didn't help either. As Epstein's own brother confirmed, Jeffrey had a lot of dirt on a lot of powerful people.
So do you think your brother had information? Do you think your brother had information? New things about powerful people?
Can you even read?
In the 2016 election, we were talking about the election, and Jeffrey
I don't know how to read.
told me that if he said what he knew about the candidates, they would have to cancel the election. That's a quote. That's exactly what he told me. He said, if I said what I knew about the candidates, they'd have to cancel the election. He didn't tell me what he knew, but that's what he said.
It also didn't help that just a few weeks earlier, Acosta was quoted in the Daily Beast telling White House reporters behind closed doors that the reason his office didn't put Epstein away for life in 2008 was simply because I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Ironically enough, though, no one has left the Jeffrey Epstein story alone since his suspicious demise. In 2025, he boasts one of the most reviled names in modern history. His story, the basis of incredible intrigue and the source of endless conspiracy theories. After all, there's still so much we don't know. Who else was aware of his depraved sexual proclivities before he got caught? Who all participated? Why was he so easily let off the hook and allowed to continue abusing girls for another decade? What was the original source of his wealth? How was he able to kill himself in a maximum security prison? Did he kill himself? Was he an intelligence asset? And what would it say about our society if he were? Will any of these questions ever be answered within our lifetime? While those in the mainstream may write such questions off as fringe conspiracy theories, I don't believe it is in any way, shape, or form conspiratorial to ask them. The conventional story, as it stands, it doesn't add up, and the victims deserve full transparency from a government that either implicitly or otherwise allowed one of the biggest monsters of the 21st century to continue preying on them for years. The government's refusal to provide any transparency has only made the problem harder to ignore. Instead of actually seeking justice, certain parties have routinely exploited Epstein's repugnant legacy as a political football to score easy points again and again. First in 2008, then 2016, and of course most prominently in 2024, when Donald Trump overtly signaled to his base that if elected, he would be the one to finally, at long last, release the files.
You talked earlier about, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. If you were president, would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you?
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so.
The response here has always been so funny to me because he clearly doesn't have any issue releasing the JFK files, the MLK files, even the 9/11 files. He's like, sure, yeah, of course, I'll do it, who cares? But then he's asked about Epstein and it starts to get a little antsy, adding caveats and choosing his words a little more carefully.
Because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there, because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
To many of his followers, this was Trump making an explicit promise to expose a grave cover-up and dismantle an elite cabal of powerful files, not unlike his promise to drain the swamp 8 years prior.
There's a moment where you had some hesitation about Epstein, releasing some of the documents on Epstein. Why the hesitation?
I don't think I'm not involved, but yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
I'm not
That's
involved.
Great to hear.
There was just one small issue with this promise. He was never gonna follow through on it.
People that they'll DM me and be like, you see what your boy doing? You voted for this. I'm like, I voted for none of this. He's doing the exact opposite of everything I voted for.
Yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? This is exactly what you voted for. Or in Andrew Schultz's case, a man you very much helped to elect.
It's so crazy. This group influenced the presidential election in 2024.
Don't even say influence. We decided.
We were the turning point.
He was not up until this pod.
It's true.
After the pod, he surges, what, 3 or 4%?
Yeah, it was a wrap, dude.
Never went back down after that.
You're talking about a guy who palled around with Epstein for 10 plus years and has gone on the record
Guys,
calling
I'm not
him
gonna
a great
watch the military
hang.
parade right
The same
now.
guy
Calm
who appears in
down.
more smiling photographs with the late than in photos with his own parents. A guy who bragged to Howard Stern about barging into dressing rooms to
cool,
ogle
though.
young contestants of his beauty pageants.
I'll go backstage before a show. Yes. And everyone's getting dressed and ready. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant and therefore I'm inspecting it. Is everyone okay? You know, they're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
A guy who said he'd date his own daughter if he could. A guy who 27 separate women have accused of sexual misconduct. A guy who was found liable for abuse in court. A guy who owned the property where Virginia Giuffre was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell. A guy who then wished Ghislaine well during her sex trafficking trial.
I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
You thought that guy and his team of sycophants would be the one to blow the lid on this whole thing? I don't know what to tell you, man. You might have the brain of a dog.
When Kash Patel was on here, and he was like, there's nothing. And I was like, what are you talking? Yeah. I didn't even know what to say. My thought was, and people are like, why didn't you push back more? My thought was like, I'm just going to put this out there and let the internet do its work.
The internet can do the work. Am I really the one that needs to push back? Yes! You're supposed to press him. He's the head of the FBI and he's...
By the way, it's irrelevant to the point here, but what happened with that one chatter who was like, oh, you're too afraid to cover the UK because you're completely out of your depth? Did that guy ever follow up and tell me what he meant? I don't think he did, right? I literally was like, I don't know what you're talking about. He spammed it, got mad, and he said, no, you do know what it is. And then I was like, I don't know what you mean. Please explain to me. And he just off. He was asking in July, can you cover what happened in Leeds, UK? Why do you always have someone's death in your stream titles? Subscribe with Prime in 2022. Don't act dumb. Come on, man. We honor Matthew 24:011 sacrifice here. He came, he spammed. Clearly, he clocked me being out of my depth on this issue, and he f***ed off. Also, it's 35% off gifted subs for the record. It's Hype Train level 2. 35% off 5+ gifted subs for the Piker Broadcasting Service. Fresh Pine with 100 big bones. God damn.
On your show, sitting across from you. Have some level of journalistic responsibility, man. You gotta ask questions. Oh, but I forgot you're not a journalist. You're a comedian. That's right. Sorry, I don't mean to go off on so much of a tangent, but this, ladies and gentlemen, is what truly sets the opportunists apart from the real party operatives. The robotic ideologues spearheading the modern conservative movement will parrot any and all talking point passed down from the White House. Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro are staunch career defenders of the Republican Party. Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz, sure, have no problem helping Donald Trump clean up his image, humanizing him on their respective podcasts. Oh, they'll even take credit for the win if it can make them look good and feel important for a fleeting second. But as soon as the other shoe drops and the masses turn on Trump, these guys are suddenly unable to stand by their president. What changed? Trump has always been this guy. You did in fact vote for just this. The art of the grift is a powerful thing. In fact, if you grift hard enough, you might just end up smiling like a jackal on the White House lawn, eager to accept a 3-ring binder of sordid sex crimes. Also, the phase 1 on the front of this thing really is the icing on the cake. It's been like 6 months of phase 1, and I'd just like to say it's going incredibly well.
Would you consider appointing a special counsel to investigate the Jeffrey Epstein investigation? I have nothing to do with it.
In February, the Attorney General invited a number of politically friendly influencers to view what was sold as new information about the Epstein case that had never been seen before. This was a big deal, so naturally people got their hopes up. They all posed for a group photo that will no doubt go down in infamy for how mind-bendingly stupid it was in hindsight. The vapid expressions of the world's most gullible marks, excited to crack these bad boys open and be the first to post all the salacious new tidbits inside, only to discover nothing new. The entire thing was a massive slap in the face to anyone who thought it was gonna be something. One of the first and finest fell for it again awards of the second Trump term. You can actually go look at all of these new recently released files right now on the official FBI website, by the way, and it's kind of astounding the number of redactions there are. Like, did they just think no one was gonna open these? The little black book they post is a more redacted version of what was already published in Gawker 10 years before. I get why they'd want to censor the contact information of certain people, but still, don't pretend this is some kind of stunning new revelation. Like, why even post the masseuse list if the entire thing is redacted? I don't know why we would need to know the names of his masseuses anyway. I can't see why that would be pressing information for the public to be made aware of, but it is just strange to post here when it contains literally nothing. It's just black bars. I mean, why include this? Same thing with the flight logs. These were already public to begin with too. Just pages and pages of cryptic documents where you can barely even discern who the passengers are because they're mostly identified by their initials. We have a good idea of who JE and GM are.
Yeah, it's funny because apparently the new revelation from the House, the GOP oversight release, is the same exact one. GOP rep Tim Burchett told me it's a moot point now and move ahead with the Massey plan, compelling release of docs. He had been a supporter of it. Massey needs 5 Republicans to force a vote. The GOP oversight release of the already public Epstein Files, which is basically the binder's faux disclosure all over again, looks set to give at least some Republicans an excuse to avoid the discharge petition. Straight up, 97% of what the Oversight Committee has obtained was already public, and what is new is a fraction compared to what has been withheld. Nancy Mace apparently came out crying from the meeting with the Jeffrey Epstein victims. Nancy Mace was visibly upset as she left the meeting with Epstein survivors at the Capitol. She declined to answer questions from the reporters. Oh, I was like, where the the audio coming from? China military parade, of course. Dude, they're having so much fun in China. God damn. China, baby! Look at these guys. They're having the best time of their lives, dude. Oh my God.
And power politics.
And also at that Tianjin summit, President Xi proposed a global governance initiative. He calls on members.
Bro, I bet his hands don't even actually get f***ed up after shaking too many of them, you know? Unlike our bitch-ass president, he can shake hands with the best of them. All right? He can just shake hands for the entire duration. And they got the dope fits, obviously. Yo, this shit is, God, a deep shame to be an American.
Japanese aggression and the world anti-fascist war.
We're watching live pictures from the heart of Beijing, the Duanmen Gate, to the north of the Forbidden City. Dozens of heads of state and leaders of international organizations are arriving on the red carpet. And in about half an hour.
We are already in our century of humiliation. I know, we can't even shake hands, bro. Our leaders can't even shake hands. It's
are sure, but am I supposed to know what?
The only hands they're shaking are file hands, dude. Science as a candle in the dark. Thank you for the 50 bones. What a username.
What the hell AS stands for? I have no idea what this was supposed to be other than the political equivalent of Jing.
Like, isn't that crazy? It's just whiplash, dude. On the one hand, we're looking at Jeffrey Epstein and his direct involvement with numerous Western leaders. On the other hand, you got Xi Jinping shaking hands with the rest of the planet, the leadership of the rest of the world.
Keys in front of a 1-year-old. The whole lifting of the veil is a complete joke. What it really is this administration thinking you're
I'm not
stupid.
even joking.
They think you're
FOMO.
stupid, man. The best part is that not even the influencers bought it. And they were handed the files on a silver platter along with kisses and a warm welcome from the White House.
And they presented us with this binder. What's interesting is we're all waiting for bombshells, we're all waiting for juicy stuff, and that's not what's in this binder. That's not what's in this binder at all.
I mean, this shit was so lackluster that it's beyond apparent to me that the goal was to release as little as possible while still making good on all those pesky promises you made on the campaign trail that you wish people would just stop asking about. And if that was their reasoning, then I can't even imagine what phase 2 was supposed to include. A photo of Trump with a stain on the front of his pants? I mean, what the f*** else were they gonna release?
After Trump had been elected. And I was sitting talking to Epstein, and he said, wait a minute, I got to show you something. And then he went into his safe and he came out with photographs. They were Polaroids, and he kind of spread them out like playing cards. I mean, I think there were a dozen of them, and it was Trump with girls of an uncertain age. And I remember very vividly 3 of them. There are 2 in which Trump is, the girls, topless girls, are sitting on Trump's lap. And then a 3rd in which he has a
God damn it, dude. I wish I was there. I wish I was there filming it, IRL streaming it. Look at this. They're aura farming. Dude, Kim is prominently placed in this too. Damn, he's got to feel extra
This
good.
gathering today in commemoration.
This is his first big thing. You know what I mean? This is like finally getting invited to prom, you know? And you get to be prom king, basically. That's crazy.
Well, as you can see right there, front and center on this gate is the character Duan Men.
Okay, let's get back to Epstein.
A stain on the front of his pants, and the girls are kind of pointing at it, sort of bent over, laughing,
covering their mouths.
Yeah, exactly, and pointing. 3 or 4 girls, and those are the ones I specifically remember.
And now they're talking about granting clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted sex trafficker who both recruited girls for Epstein and abused them alongside him, just as long as she cooperates with the government. Why not, right? After all, she has been weighing her options, whether it's asking—
Wait, bad timing? No, I'm talking about the China parade, man. Calm down. Look,
holds a special significance.
I keep swapping back and forth between the China parade.
The Tiananmen rostrum sits right in the heart of the Chinese capital, with viewing platforms that can overlook the Tiananmen Square. The leaders will be walking towards the rostrum. They will ascend to the viewing platform on the rostrum and view the military parade together.
Now, as they walk on the red carpet to make their way to the top of the Tiananmen rostrum, a little bit of background information about the
mandate of heaven, dude.
The Supreme Court to overturn her conviction or testifying in front of Congress in return for a presidential pardon, which Trump still hasn't ruled out, by the way.
President Trump was asked whether he would consider a pardon for convicted sex trafficker and Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell.
Well, I'm allowed to give her a pardon, but nobody's approached me with it. Nobody's asked me about it.
Would you consider a pardon or a commutation for Ghislaine Maxwell?
It's something I haven't thought about. It's really something. I'm allowed to do it, but it's something I have not thought about.
But you wouldn't rule it out?
I mean, come on, the man sent his own personal defense attorney to negotiate with Ghislaine in private. Ghislaine, who already propositioned the Biden administration for info on Trump if it meant a pardon back then. You think she wouldn't say whatever it takes for a get-out-of-jail-free card? You think that's gonna quell the conspiracy theories?
Can you trust what she's telling him? She's a convicted trafficker who's eager to get out of prison.
Well, he's a professional lawyer. I think he's been through things like this before. But, you should focus on Clinton.
I mean, for Christ's sakes, you aren't helping your case by moving her out of an already lax facility in Florida to an even more lax facility in Texas. The same one that houses reality TV star Jen Shah and a friend of the channel, Elizabeth Holmes. According to a recent report by NBC, inmates here are provided more freedoms. They live in dormitory-style housing with no locked doors. They can mingle in sitting areas between housing units, and they have access to the recreation yard and a hobby and crafts area. Despite the chain link fence, the article notes, it's not unheard of for inmates to occasionally walk off the premises before being forced back. Sounds like the perfect spot for a woman who preyed on countless children for decades of her life. You gotta admit, it is pretty funny that Trump moved her to this minimal security jail right around the same time she came out and said she never saw the president doing anything concerning.
I certainly never witnessed the president in any of, I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance.
People saying Trump is jealous that he wasn't invited to the cool China parade. I'm jealous. Trump. Imagine being a part of the international media, being able to film that shit, that'd be so
the
sick.
president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in
But yeah,
any
Trump is jealous
inappropriate
too, for sure.
setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman.
And did you ever hear Mr. Epstein or anybody say that President Trump had done anything inappropriate with masseuses or with anybody in your world?
Absolutely never. In any context.
That's a relief. Guess it was just a hoax all along then.
What did you see and hear at the time?
I saw Epstein with women. Anytime I saw anybody with him, they were happy to be with him. I never saw an aggressive move. I never saw anything that was
non-consensual.
Yeah, well, thank you. Okay. I never saw anything that was non-consensual.
I just want to pause here really quick because I want everyone to understand what we just witnessed. That was the deputy AG, formerly Donald Trump's own personal defense.
Excuse me, there's no wrongdoing here. It's totally normal to have Trump's former attorney be the current attorney general, okay? And his other former attorney be the deputy attorney general. No conflict of interest here. And then having him sit in a closed door deposition with the key witness with leading questions. None of that is weird and strange. It's all above board.
Attorney finishing Ghislaine's answer for her. We're supposed to believe there's nothing off about this dynamic. You're supposed to let her talk. Why are you helping a convicted sex trafficker in her testimony to the government? And I guess we should just forget that she's a prolific abuser of young girls who has literally been charged with perjury twice before, but why not take her word at face value? Her judgment is perfectly clear, right guys? And I mean, at the end of the day, isn't she just another victim after all?
She's also been subpoenaed by the Oversight Committee. I think this is great. I do have a feeling that she just might be a victim. She just might be. There was a rush to judgment. There was a lot of chaos there for a while. Granted, she hung out with Jeffrey Epstein, and I know that's apparently not good.
Even to those who...
Hey, by the way, who is now a part of the... So this is Newsmax. For those of you who don't know, this insane reporting, if you can call it that, is coming from Newsmax. Who is now on the board of Newsmax, you might be wondering? Oh, that's right. Alexander, Trump's former labor secretary, Acosta, who resigned in disgrace after there was a relitigation of his involvement giving Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart plea deal when he was a prosecutor. Now he sits on the board of Newsmax, where Greg Kelly is saying insane shit like this. It's strange.
Jeffrey Epstein. And I know that's apparently not good.
Even to those who like Trump and don't think he's done anything wrong with Epstein, you have to see...
Newsmax is also where like all the Fox News go to when they so much that even the other executives of Fox News go, dude, you have too many. You need to dial back on the... That's where they go. They go to Newsmax.
How bad this looks, right? You can't fire the prosecutor responsible for convicting Ghislaine and expect people to move along like there's nothing to see. At this point, nothing short of a full release of the 100,000 plus files the FBI has on Epstein will satisfy the public and recover Trump's approval rating. Hell, in my mind, it's the only way Trump can fully exonerate himself if he truly does have nothing to hide. But the way the Bureau redacted his name from the files, along with his evasiveness toward the subject, he's only managed to make himself look increasingly more suspect.
7 years from the time that you learned that people were being stolen from Mar-a-Lago to the time that you took on Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, I don't understand your question.
After all, I understand why he's anxious. The Epstein Files do have the capacity to...
Hassan Farsan Plains, I pay you money, read my username. And I burp into the mic, too.
Destroy people, as the president himself seems keenly aware of. Another quote attributed to Trump is, "They're trying to be," which I don't really like to imagine Trump saying, personally. According to what insiders told the Daily Beast, though, the president was panicking back in July that they're going to accuse me of some funny business, even while insisting he had nothing to do with Epstein's criminal activity. It is true that Epstein's legacy has come back to haunt Trump in a way that his detractors have latched onto, even if it did take them a minute. The Epstein angle certainly wasn't the shit Republicans expected, though, to say the least. Shooting down a bill sponsored by Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna that would have demanded a full release of the files, in addition to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson issuing a recess of Congress so that no more Epstein-related votes can happen until at least September. While some notable Republicans have done the right thing in calling for transparency, they still remain very much in the minority, which has led some voters to question, well, everything.
We go to Travis in South Dakota. Hello, Travis.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, Jay.
I want to check in with Travis like one of these days, see what he's up to. The famous pro-Trump guy who was like having his world fall apart.
Listen, I tell you what, guys, I feel really betrayed and I feel really, really angry. We have a president who tells us to move on from Epstein because it doesn't matter. Are you guys still talking about this? Seriously? People like me will not stop talking about this. I feel so betrayed and so angry. This is not what I voted for. If we do not stand up for the children of this country, we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And I tell you what, I've also lost a lot of respect for a lot of people that are prominent figures in this country because they are saying, you know what, this doesn't matter. But you know what, the children of this country really, really matter. How can we just sweep them under the rug and not care?
Of course, Trump has already made it clear that he doesn't want these boys, and in some cases gals, supporting him anyway. It's not without reason that this saga was the impetus for a major rift within the MAGA base. Whatever faith people had in this administration dried up as soon as Kash Patel's FBI and Pam Bondi's DOJ first lit the match that ignited the entire firestorm we're dealing with now. After months of hyping it up in the media, the top prosecutors in America released a groundbreakingly damning account of the full Jeffrey Epstein case laid out in plain view, packed to the brim with explosive testimony and mountains of new evidence exposing the elite network pulling the strings of our very constitutional republic. I'm kidding, they shat out a 2-page memo saying they were closing the case. See, this whole thing blew up July 7th when the government concluded that an exhaustive search of its databases, hard drives, cabinets, desks, and closets, which, yeah, okay, I'm sure you were searching the desks and closets, turned up no client list, no credible evidence of blackmail, and no evidence to warrant an investigation of uncharged third parties in their relation to one of the most high-profile and well-connected sex traffickers in recent history. As you could expect, this report, along with the added conclusion that Epstein did in fact kill himself, didn't exactly go over too well with anyone who's followed the Epstein saga closely, whether they be on the left or right. And instead of closing the chapter on Epstein, a brand new one has opened up, one that not even Teflon Don himself has managed to ignore. It is very funny that whenever he's presented with new unearthed photos of, say, Epstein at his second wedding, or the bizarre letter he wrote to him back in 2003, Trump's immediate response is, you gotta be f***ing kidding me. I mean, he doesn't hide how he feels, I'll give him that. With each passing day, you get the feeling that the man is becoming increasingly desperate for any kind of distraction at any cost, even if it means calling up MAGA influencers and personally asking them to avoid bringing up the subject on their shows, or rather, put down the MAGA rebellion, as one White House insider recently told Rolling Stone. Administration officials closely monitored the overwhelmingly negative reactions to the memo by right-wing allies and influencers, drawing up divide and conquer style lists laying out which Trump officials should reach out to which Epstein conspiracists in hopes of persuading them to ease up on Team Trump. The magazine concluded the damage control operation stretched on for long enough that Trump himself jumped in, working the phones to try to sway some of his most devoted followers to leave the Epstein issue alone. The senior level outreach campaign verged on the kind of sensitive operation typically reserved for things like passing a major piece of legislation.
Okay, bro. All right, here. God damn. We're gonna just show this, and then I'm gonna go back to the Epstein stuff and finish it off. It's a cool juxtaposition to see what the is up to, as opposed to what our leaders are doing. Okay. I'd rather be a child in China. This broadcast is sponsored by Crypto.com. Victory Day 80 commemorates the 80th year of the People's Republic of China and the 80th year of the Chinese victory. Buy Mao coin, the #1 coin for the industrious Chinese. This Victory Day parade is sponsored by Polymarket. Polymarket. When you want to bet on 100 years of Chinese prosperity, you bet on Polymarket. If I was invited, would I go to this? Yeah. If I could, oh my God. Imagine I could stream this. Are you kidding me? Do you guys think Xi Jinping knows who I Show Speed is? Like, there's a non-zero chance, right? Because he was being prominently featured on Chinese news for showing China in a positive way. Like, you think that got all the way up to Xi? That's so crazy. No chance. You're just a hater, dude. Okay, there's too much singing. All right, let's get back to the pedophiles.
The extent to which these people went to shut up anyone in their herd who may stray a little too far away from the pack is incredibly revealing. But it's also hard to argue it hasn't kind of worked. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk went on to express his unwavering devotion to the administration despite an exceeding lack of transparency.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands. I've said plenty this last weekend.
A quick word of advice to anyone following politics in any capacity. If somebody tells you to just trust the government, bro, that person is not to be trusted. But those are the marching orders from the top, after all. And if you want to keep your good standing with the government, you'd be wise to fall in line. I swear to God, these past couple months have spawned some of the most deranged takes I've ever seen in my life.
Should Ghislaine Maxwell be behind bars?
She shouldn't be, but she is. They sentenced her to a sentence that would have been appropriate for Epstein, but not at all appropriate for her. And so she's appealing now, and I hope the appeal will be granted. She deserves to be out.
I have spent the last 17 years in my own prison for what she, Jeffrey, and all the co-conspirators did to me. I was raped repeatedly. I was 3 times a day sometimes. And I was not the only girl on that island. There was a constant stream of girls being raped over and over and over again. And yes, Ghislaine must die in prison because I've been in hell and back for the last 17 years.
She deserves to be out.
Take Scott Adams, aka the creator of Dilbert, the cartoon on the bathroom calendar at your grandma's house, who pretty much admitted the country would fall into disarray if the files were released, and that it'd be better not to risk it, since that would mean the Republican Party losing control of Congress, which would plunge the country into a Democrat open border hellscape. Nurse, he's out again. Hard to imagine why he deleted that one. Or let's take a look at the beautiful mind of Alex Jones. a man who has practically built his entire career on rooting out the secret pedophile cabal at the top of society and is having his worldview completely obliterated.
What a fall from grace for Alex Jones. That's right.
As a result of Trump's inaction.
So now, by coming in and being part of the cover-up, the Trump administration has become part of it. So I just got to the office. So I'm gonna go throw up, actually. I mean, I'm physically gonna puke probably right now. My mouth is watering right now because I have integrity.
The disarray goes all the way up to the very highest places of the administration, in fact, with Deputy FBI Director and guy who definitely doesn't do steroids, Dan Bongino, reportedly threatening to resign over the July memo, a threat that just about gave Trump a heart attack. The last thing he needs right now is more disunity. Everyone in the administration has been put in a position where, on the one hand, they need to carry out the president's bidding, but on the other, they still want to somewhat save face with the public. And that includes Pam Bondi, who feigned outrage at the FBI supposedly withholding valuable information from the DOJ in February. Back then, Bondi was furious and demanded the FBI give her the rest of the files by that.
Did I miss my own tweet? Is that what you said?
Save face with the public. And that includes Pam Bondi, who feigned outrage at the FBI supposedly withholding valuable information from the DOJ in February. Back then, Bondi was furious and demanded the FBI give her the rest of the files by that Friday. Surprisingly, Friday came and went without a peep.
Okay, well, I didn't see it. Oh.
The way up to the very highest places of the administration, in fact, with Deputy FBI Director and guy who definitely doesn't.
Dan, please leak your steroid routine. Are you accusing me of a drug crime on an open platform? Be very careful with your answer, because I promise you that the wrong one will be very expensive for both you and the young turds. That's real. That's real. He did do that to me a long time ago, back when this was my profile picture. Yeah, and then he blocked me. Were you careful with your answer? I couldn't even give an answer because he blocked me.
And do more disunity bidding Bondi, who in Feb of the files by that Friday. Surprisingly, Friday came and went without a peep from her department. The disgrace of the memo they drafted up together was released 2 months later. But because none of this ever seems to go away, they've been forced to release something in an attempt to tie people over, which culminated in us seeing the raw prison footage of Epstein's cell the night he died. Only the footage wasn't raw, and it wasn't even footage of his cell. The footage instead shows only a glimpse of the common area. You can barely make out a few pixels of what I guess is supposed to be Epstein walking up to his cell in the hours before his death, but it didn't even take a day for experts to realize this footage was altered with a minute missing, which Bondi explained away as being routine in most jails, even though it doesn't matter at that point because they had already lied about it being raw footage.
At 11:21 p.m. and 34 seconds, a cursor appears briefly on screen, indicating the video may have been recorded.
It's f***ed up that no one wants to hang out with Kim. I'm noticing that no one's shaking hands with Kim. Anyway, China, baby.
With a camera or a screen recording, and was not an export of the raw file.
As others had pointed out, the real raw footage wouldn't have a cut. A CBS News investigation from this past July also lays out some of the government's other inconsistencies that don't quite match the evidence they've given us. For instance, the FBI claimed that anyone entering Epstein's cell would have needed to pass this common area that we see on the tape. Yeah, that's not true. As CBS pointed out in their analysis, Epstein's cell was in the L block, accessible via a staircase from the special housing unit's common area. When Epstein appears on camera, he's seen walking toward the stairs leading to his cell, but since the staircase is almost entirely out of view from the camera, he is never seen ascending. The entrance to Epstein's cell, they continue, as well as the primary entrance to the special housing unit, are off camera in the same direction, meaning there's no way to tell from the video if he went to his cell or exited the SHU. As CBS concludes, while brief movement is occasionally visible on the stairs when someone is walking up the left side, the area remains mostly obscured throughout the recording, making it impossible to determine if someone may have entered the SHU through the primary entrance and accessed the staircase without ever being captured on the recording. As one video forensics expert told the publication, to say that there's no way that someone could get to the stair up to his room, without being seen is false. And that's just one of the inconsistencies inconsistencies they mention, mind you. They also acknowledge an unidentified figure who appears to enter the SHU that was not mentioned in the Inspector General's report, and they also point out that there were 2 additional cameras recording that night. One pointed at an elevator bank used to transfer inmates, and another pointed at a guard's desk, which the government has still not released on the basis that that footage would not be helpful to the investigation, which of course experts dispute as well. And I just don't understand. At a time when you are supposedly trying to usher in a new era of transparency or whatever, I cannot for the life of me imagine why the ever-loving you would conceal any footage, even if it had no relation to what took place that night. Who cares? Just put it out. I mean, do you want there to be more conspiracy theories? What do you have to lose in showing us everything you have? If you want a fuller and more visual
Sometimes it makes me feel like, yes, the answer is yes, they want us to be crazy.
breakdown of all the inconsistencies, I'd recommend watching both the CBS investigation as well as this video by CoffeeZilla, where, like the maniac he is, he actually recreated the entire unit in 3D. Both of these videos paint a much clearer picture of what the prison actually looked like that night, and both poke some major holes in the official narrative pushed by the government. As CoffeeZilla himself states, this is either a case of extreme negligence or a more deliberate cover-up. Either way, it indicates that the DOJ still owes us more information. Until then, we'll just have no choice but to speculate on strange details, like an orange blur making its way up the stairs to Epstein's cell shortly before he turned up dead. We'll have to wonder what was said on the unrecorded phone call Epstein made to a person he said was his mother, but couldn't possibly be it since she died years before his arrest. Hell, why he was able to make an unrecorded phone call late at night in the first place has yet to be answered either. None of it adds up, and the answers we do get seem to change by the day. One second, Trump says he was never told he was in the Epstein Files. The next, it's being reported that he was in fact told, which his own DOJ still hasn't denied, by the way. It's the lack of transparency, the blatant cover-up, and frantic damage control directed by the president and his allies that's fueled the very speculation they want us to shut up about and move on from. Speculation that could be shut down immediately with the full release of the files. But like the previous—
I'm gonna finish this first before I watch the parade, okay? Calm down.
Of guns resembles wars of soldiers on the battleground.
Okay, yes. The march started. Everybody shut up. It's the same shit.
Administrations to come before his, the Trump camp continues to drag their feet. And every day that they do is another day that Epstein's victims are disrespected and denied the justice they have always deserved. With everything considered, it is impossible not to wonder what exactly our leaders are so terrified of coming out. What could possibly prompt a directive to redact name everywhere it appears in the FBI's files? Why lie about his name being in the files in the first place? Why lie about the footage being raw? And why let this issue completely splinter the MAGA base if it had no merit whatsoever? Just what exactly do they not want us to talk about?
I never had the privilege of going to his island, and I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach
dumbass iPad kids, bro. I swear to God, y'all want like Subway Surfers on this shit.
were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country.
The recent fury expressed by the president when confronted with his undisputable ties to a late sex trafficking file says a lot. Over the past 10 years, I really haven't once seen him respond so viscerally to any other controversy before. Trump is usually able to let just about everything roll off his back, but this is different, which is why I think his connection to Epstein deserves a deep dive of its own. And in about 2 weeks, you're gonna get to see just that. I hope you stick along for the ride, whether you voted for Trump or not. His friendship with one of the most infamous criminals in modern history deserves a closer look, as do his ties to the murky side of the modeling business and beyond. Until then, thanks so much for watching this 4th installment in my seemingly never-ending Jeffrey Epstein saga. Sources will be down in the description as always, but before we go, I do want to hit you with another piece of Epstein lore that doesn't get enough attention. His Spotify playlist. Yes, this is real. I didn't really know where else to put this, but I had to include it somewhere. According to the Business Insider article that first reported on this account back back in 2019, which included a supposed Twitter and Pinterest account reportedly owned by the late Predator, the latter of which contains this eerie mural of Peter Pan as some kind of sick inspiration, I guess. The state of New York requires registered sex offenders to hand over internet information to the government, which can be emails and social media accounts. Although the information isn't usually public, social media companies with users under the age of 18 can request to see it, which is how we know this playlist, which Epstein used throughout the 2010s, is in fact real. His account, named JEE Vacation, and JEE standing for Jeffrey Edward Epstein, features 19 public playlists in total, and feature names like New, Paris Flight, Paris Return, Piano, Jump, Pitbull, Elton John, Beatles, Me Likey Now, and a bunch of other misspellings like Gossipel and Broadway, which is hardly surprising if you've seen any of his email correspondence with Ghislaine from 2015, the same time he was said to have been building these very playlists. I've covered these
Or his Ehud Barak emails as well. He cannot spell for shit, bro.
emails before on this channel, but in case you haven't seen them and needed more evidence of the Spotify being real, I think that pretty much seals it. When we take a look at the actual playlists themselves, we find titles like Classica, which includes the Imperial March from Star Wars. While it absolutely sends shivers down my spine to think about Jeffrey Epstein flying around the globe on the Lolita Express, bumping a Darth Vader's theme music, it somehow isn't the worst thing on these playlists. You can also find Van Halen's Hot for Teacher, a song called My Heart Belongs to Daddy, Eric Clapton's Before You Accuse Me. You can also find a playlist titled Selena, which, as Business Insider points out, happens to be the name of Glenn Dubin's daughter. The Dubins, as I've talked about in previous videos, are a family of billionaires who were good friends with Epstein even after his 2008 conviction. He even reportedly dated Glenn's wife Eva in the 80s. To name a playlist after their daughter is so beyond creepy that I don't even want to think about it. We also know that Epstein was a Louis C.K. fan, as he had his 2010 special Hilarious saved. He also has a lot of Beyonce, Drake, Eminem, Rihanna, and Skrillex saved, along with Mac Miller's Donald Trump, which I think is kind of funny. You can find a lot of mainstream artists here in his exercise playlist, which of course is misspelled too, but it's where he saved LMFAO's Party Rock Anthem and I'm Sexy and I Know It. And with that, I'm sure at this point you've learned more about Jeffrey Epstein than you'd ever care to know, but if I had to be cursed,
that's like a double crime, dude. It's like pedophilia and also doing it to LMFAO is like doubly f***ed up.
With the knowledge that this guy had an entire playlist dedicated to Pitbull on his Spotify, well then, so do you.
Another banger from Aubrey on Jeffrey Eduardo Epstein, Jedediah Epstein.